We've been talking about the deprecation of third-party cookies and how they're going to be phased out for years and years at this point. It feels like it's almost been a decade. And as a consequence, everyone who has a business that relies on advertising, since third-party cookies are a big part of how advertising networks work today, as well as that relies on buying a lot of advertisements to spur their business, is panicking. So in advertising, there's really two parties that you have to get familiar with. One's the advertiser and two is the publisher. Advertisers are brands like Nike that are using ad networks like Facebook and Google to actually reach their customers and prospective customers and instruct them to go to Nike.com or to buy their products. So advertisers are earning money from their customers who convert from the ads, and publishers are actually earning money by selling ad space. The two largest publishers in the world are Google and Facebook. They actually account for over 60% of the advertising market worldwide, which is pretty crazy to think about. All advertising at a technical level is really powered by two core concepts. The first concept is a pixel. A pixel is a snippet of code that you get from an ad network like Facebook or Google that you put on your website if you're an advertiser that lets the ad network track certain things like, did the customer add an item to the cart? Did they view a certain page? Did they convert? So did they sign up or demo your product or buy something? And cookies are actually a technology that comes from the browser itself that actually are these unique identifiers that are stored in the browser, similar to your browser history or your browser preferences. And what a cookie does is that anytime you visit a website, a cookie is actually exposed to that website you're visiting so that they can track that you're the same customer that came to the website last time. So this means, you don't have to type in your password a second time if you go to a website or re-add an item to your cart if you're not signed in. That kind of stuff can be stored in the browser in the form of cookies. There's a second type of cookie called a third-party cookie. And what that is Nike can track a certain visitor on their website and can inform Facebook that that's the same visitor that went to facebook.com. That's actually the mechanism that these pixel code snippets that Facebook and Google and all the ad networks ask you to add to your site if you're a brand like Nike depends on it. It depends on this idea of a third-party cookie, which is a cookie where an advertiser has the ability to share their data with a publisher, and a publisher has the ability to share their data with an advertiser and actually see that there's a matching user across two domains. The reason third-party cookies are controversial is because they actually give companies like Facebook the ability to track you across all the sites you're going to around the web that are owned by other companies that are advertising on Facebook, and then to know at the same time that you're not just the user that went to Nike and then Walmart and then went to your university's website, but you're also the same person that went to Facebook where they know everything else about you. It allows brands like Nike to just send customers these hyper-personalized ads even if they don't know the customer's email address or actually know who the customer is from a known perspective. Today, if a company like Nike wants to, run ads against consumers who are checking out an item and then dropping off, not making a purchase, they can just do that using third-party cookies. You can go into Facebook and say, hey, I want to run ads against people who viewed products and didn't check them out, all using the data that Facebook's collecting from the Facebook pixel. Now, without third-party cookies, Nike can't actually very easily target anonymous traffic. So, web traffic that's not signed in, where they don't know your email address, they don't know your phone number, they don't know who you actually are as a person, they just know you're browser A or browser B. It's really hard for Nike to now run ads against those users based on their activity on the website without knowing exactly who you are without third-party cookies, because third-party cookies was serving as your identifier, like an email address that you could share with another publisher like Facebook before to say who exactly to target. So this is still possible today, but it's just a lot harder. You have to, bring in other data sources that can help you guess who the customer is based on their IP address. You have to start putting, email newsletter forms everywhere, start giving people coupons to give you an email address, and try to do everything to promote customers to tell you something about them. You can link that to your knowledge of a customer and advertise against them. So with the deprecation of third-party cookies, how does the world change? Well, for one, every brand in the world is now trying to collect as much first-party information as they can about customers that are going to their website, indicating interest in their products, interacting with them as a brand. If cookies aren't a reliable way to identify an anonymous visitor and advertise against them, companies still want to do that, and asking people for their email address is easily going to have a drop-off of 50 to 80%. People are looking towards other data sources and clever techniques to to find out who you are anonymously to advertise against you. Ironically, I think deprecation of third-party cookies will not only make first-party data more important, but it'll also make all the other third-party data sources around the world really, really important as well. So in addition to those top two reasons, third-party cookies and the deprecation of them is actually going to cause advertisers to need to use new techniques like first-party conversion APIs, first-party audiences, and lastly, identity resolution, or this idea of how can I algorithmically or probabilistically look through all the customer information I have and figure out who is who in terms of my users. So some closing thoughts on how this affects the market. I don't think, the deprecation of third-party cookies is a doomsday scenario for advertisers by any means. There's new techniques to handle first-party data, both in the context of how you engage your users, as well as at a technical level. And there's a ton of innovation going on in the space. Digital advertising will continue to be a huge part of how businesses grow. Too much of the economy really depends on it. That being said, there's some interesting stuff happening at more of a business or a meta level. Google and Apple collectively shutting down third-party cookies could actually kind of be a move that's competitive against companies like Facebook. Google and Apple own the largest data sets about consumers in the world. They can have some of the best advertising targeting using that data, whereas companies like Facebook or any network that relies more on third-party information is at an inherent disadvantage without third-party cookies. I think this is another core reason that you see Facebook going so hard on other markets now, like VR, and trying to diversify their revenue, understanding that they don't have as much of a moat on the advertising area. And finally, Apple, which typically hasn't been huge in the advertising space before, is actually positioning itself kind of perfectly to become the second biggest, let's say, very privacy-aware advertising company behind Google. These are all speculations. We'll have to see how they pan out, but the deprecation of third-party cookies definitely has some wider market impacts on how these companies are interacting in big tech.